Welcome, everybody, to DigCit Week 2022. I can't believe it. We are celebrating 10 years of Digital Citizenship Week with Common Sense Education. I'm Lena Darnay with Keep Indiana Learning, and I am thrilled to welcome Jennifer Ehehalt from Common Sense Ed to go through some really amazing digital dilemmas that they are offering this year as part of their free resources for DigCit Week. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you.
Hi, Lena. It's so great to see you too. Happy Digital Citizenship Week.
Hey, happy DigCit Week to you as well. Just a reminder to everyone out there as you're watching and you're exploring the DigCit resources, we are following your progress as you post them on Twitter. Use hashtag DigCitWeek, hashtag DigCitWins so that you can tell us what's working for you in your classes with your students. And then don't forget to tag us. Common Sense Ed is really taking a powerful step this year with 10 years of DigCit Week. And we are all at Keep Indiana Learning cheering them on and supporting all the work that's being done. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to you, Jennifer, to share what's going on in those digital dilemmas.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So yes, we are celebrating a decade of Digital Citizenship Week. Really happy to be here. We're going to walk through some digital dilemmas. I have two really great dilemmas for us to work through this afternoon. My name again, Jennifer Ehehalt. I have been with Common Sense just about 10 years, senior regional manager, really focusing on professional development and integrating digital citizenship in our daily lives. Our classrooms are routines every day. And so love my job, get to work with schools and districts all across the country and around the globe. So really excited to share our content here with you today. So before we get started, I want us to all get on the same page, right? So let's define what is a digital dilemma. When we think about the dilemmas or the drama that we're seeing out there, I wanted to define it here as a digital dilemma really is a tricky situation that can occur in digital life. And it doesn't always have an obvious right or wrong answer. And that's what makes it so tricky. Even when someone has been hurt or wronged, the right way to respond in a digital dilemma is often very unclear, which can make people uncomfortable. So today I wanted to walk you through some strategies, some routines that we can think about when we come across these things that give us what we call maybe red flag feelings in digital spaces. So before we get started, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on how we kind of frame these dilemmas. And so if you're not familiar, we use CASEL, C-A-S-E-L, and their framework around social and emotional learning, social emotional wellness. And their framework consists of these 5 areas that you see on this circle: self-management, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness, where we feel all 5 of these tie together and play a very important role as we interact with others in these online spaces. So what I wanted to do was kind of expand those 5 areas and give you just a little bit of insight into what we mean by each one of these frameworks. So self-awareness. I talked about red flag feelings when you're using technology, something that makes you feel uncomfortable or you think maybe right or wrong, depending on your values and how you see things through your perspective. Social media, and what we're seeing across all social platforms and how that makes us aware of what's out there. The next one that you see there is self-management. So managing our personal emotions around media, setting goals and talking about media balance and what feels healthy, what feels good to you. And the third one, that middle one, is responsible decision-making. And what we mean by that is, understanding positive and negative impacts by being online, right? We all know there's a lot of good things that come out of being online, whether it's learning, communicating, connecting, creating, but we also know there are some negative aspects to that. And we want to be aware of that balance. And then obviously just using technology to promote well-being for the good. And then those last 2 kind of go together: relationship skills, understanding and getting kids to understand what a healthy online relationship looks like, what it feels like, how to de-escalate some of that digital drama they see. And then that social awareness, just, concern for others, empathy, norms online. What do those norms look like? What norms feel good to you in the communities that you're a part of? So just giving you some tips and some things to think about under that framework when we talk about our whole well-being online. Make sense? All right. So let's take us through an activity. This digital dilemma. So Common Sense Education has a whole bank of hypothetical digital dilemmas that, as educators, counselors, administrators, tech coaches, if you wear an educator hat, you're more than likely coming across digital drama with your students. So we have a whole bank of these different scenarios that you can role play, you can act out, you can go through with your students, customize them to fit your culture, your needs within the group of students you're working with. So this one happens to be missing out. Otherwise known as what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. And as adults, I think some of us have this as well. So these are skills I think no matter what age, it's a good idea to practice and think about some routines that you can instill within yourselves to make yourself feel good when you come across these things. So I'm going to go ahead and read this scenario, and then I'm going to take you through what we call a thinking routine. All right, are you ready to go? All right, here we go. For months, Ada and her 3 closest friends had been waiting for a new movie to come out. The movie was based on one of their favorite books, and they promised they would all see it together and then go out for pizza. On the movie's opening weekend, Ada had a last-minute emergency and wasn't able to go. The others decided to go anyway because they had been really looking forward to it. That night, they posted constantly about their fun and new inside jokes. Ada wanted to keep connected, but seeing the constant posts bummed her out. She felt like no one even cared that she had missed out on their plans. I'm going to give you a second or two to kind of think about that. If you're watching this on demand, go ahead and pause and give yourself a moment to maybe even reread it. But the idea here is, you're seeing fun things happening on your social media platforms when you're not involved or invited can make you feel really bad. So let's go through. What I did was I took a thinking routine, and if you're familiar with Jamboard or any type of collaboration tool is fine, but I put this thinking routine and the questions we want to work through in a Jamboard. Sometimes this makes us a little more engaging for students to be able to interact and share their responses, either anonymously or together. But the idea is here, the first step in this thinking routine is to identify who is involved in this scenario. So we have Ada, right? Her friends that all went to the movie. We have, the one that stayed back. So you want the students to identify everybody involved, and we want to make sure that they're including the viewers, the people posting and liking, sharing, everyone involved in this particular scenario. And then what are they facing? Obviously, feeling left out. So I'm going to go to the next question. So what you want them to think about too is take all of the people in this dilemma and go through what they might be feeling. Why might that situation be hard or challenging for each of them? So if we go back, Ada and her 3 closest friends had been waiting for a new movie. So obviously we have Ada and her 3 closest friends. So there's 4 of them involved here. And so when we think about, what do you think Ada might be feeling? Really excited to participate, really excited to go see a new movie, especially with her friends. They even tagged pizza onto it. And then unfortunately something came up, an emergency, but the 3 of her closest friends decided to go to that movie without her. So how do you think those friends may be feeling? What are some emotions they might be thinking? Do you think any of them might be feeling bad? Obviously, 1 or 2 may not be feeling bad if they went forward with it. And why do you think they're posting? How do you think they're feeling when they're posting those things? For one instance, it could be they aren't even realizing or thinking about Ada looking in on all of this fun without them. Another idea would be they're not being intentional about it. They're just having fun and posting. And so lots of ways to have conversations and open dialogue with your students around, why would this be challenging for some people looking in or out or involved in these different scenarios? So now the next question is, once you go through kind of how each person's feeling and why they may have done these things or posted these things or shared these things that made people uncomfortable or sad or any emotion really out there, want to imagine how this situation could be handled. So getting students to think about not necessarily consequences. We want to move away from that consequence-based feeling or idea, because taking, the device away isn't necessarily teaching us anything or teaching students anything. And so imagine options for how this situation could be handled. And so could we do to make everybody involved feel better about what happened? Is it, taking down some of the posts? In some cases, it might make people feel better. Is it being inclusive next time? Is it going and maybe sharing after the fact? Like, we really missed you. Here are some photos offline that we took, but we really missed you. So giving them ideas on how the situation could be handled so you're not hurting feelings, you're showing a little more empathy, being more inclusive. And then the last part of it is thinking more about the idea you chose. What could people involved say? And then that's where we think about, should this be a face-to-face conversation? Is it appropriate to have a text? But the delivery of how this resolution should occur, it's nice to get the students involved in thinking about their decisions and their ideas. Makes it a lot more valuable. So this is just one example I have of what we think about as a thinking routine around social and emotional wellness. And the next one we have is, you can take these a little further too. So you have the situation, and then you can have complicate questions and taking this conversation further. I view them as like what if questions. So what if, it was the last night that the movie was playing at the theater and it was going away after that night? How would that conversation shift or take a turn? Another question you could ask yourself is, what is the regular sleepover rather than a movie outing? Should the friends reschedule or stick with their plans without Ada? And so there's a few more. You can just kind of take these and extend that conversation and get the students to really think about the different scenarios that they could be involved in the future. Sound good? And I know a lot of educators keep this this template of questions right near them. There's a handout. You could upload this into an LMS and have students go through it. Great for teachable moments, because we all know when something's happening around or amongst our students, there's not going to be much learning happening until we resolve what's distracting them. All right, I have one more for you. So before I get into that one, I just want to recap the feelings and options thinking routine. You want to identify the folks involved and what the dilemma is. You want to talk about feeling. How would each person in that dilemma be feeling? Imagining the options of how we can make this resolved where everyone feels good about it. And then the number 4, how can we say these things? When should we say these things in order for everyone to feel good? Sound good? All right. This next one is what we call take a stand thinking routines. And so we know out there in online spaces, we see a lot of different perspectives being shared, and it's okay to have different perspectives. It's okay to have different ideas, different views, different values. But what's not okay is addressing them through hate speech, cyberbullying, and drama, right? And so we have what we call thinking routines to take a stand. So really pulling out your perspective versus others' perspective, and how to balance a meaningful conversation when you happen to agree or disagree on a particular subject or topic that's hot. So for today, I have a scenario here called lunch lines. I'm going to go ahead and read, and then you can think about how you would handle the situation. This is really good for argumentative writing, persuasive writing, debate, all of those types of things that go on in classrooms. These are great hypothetical scenarios you can pull right from our bank. So let's read this one together. Dr. Davis is the principal of Fairview High School, one of the biggest schools in the state. At the beginning of the year, Dr. Davis sent around a survey to learn about things students wanted to improve about their school. Most students said they wanted to make the lunch lines more efficient so everyone could eat without having to rush to make it to their next class. While looking for solutions to the issue of lunch lines, Dr. Davis received a pitch from a facial recognition company. The company said it could create a system that allows students to pay for their lunch using their faces. That way, students would not have to wait in long lines to get their lunch and pay for it. So, do you think Dr. Davis should get the facial recognition technology to improve the lunch lines? And then, of course, why or why not? So, I'm going to go ahead and give you a second to either reread that, digest the people involved, and our thinking routine I have here. All right. This one I did not put into a Jamboard. I thought we could just kind of go through this together and role play what would happen here. So what you'll want to do is after you read the scenario to your students or your class, on your own, you want them to think about, what they think, what their perspective is, how they feel about what they just read or just heard, and explain their perspective. Now, this can be done through a digital tool like a Jamboard, a Padlet, any type of, again, collaboration tool. You could have them jot it down in a journal, but the idea here is for them to think on their own and come up with their own perspective based on, their instant reaction to how they felt. Once you give them time to do that, then as a group, you want to open it up and you want to see where their classmates have, stand on this issue, and you want to give opportunity to listen to all the perspectives. So this is where you really have to cultivate a classroom where everyone feels safe to share ideas, perspectives, values, etc. And so there's no right or wrong here. We're just sharing perspectives on what they thought. Maybe there were benefits to both of these. Maybe there were pros and cons to these things, and what stood out to them, what really resonated with them in terms of why they felt that way. So once they'll have a chance to share perspectives and ideas and thoughts, then you give them a little more time on their own again to look again at the original response that you said or you jotted down. What had you not considered that other people brought up? And I think that number 3 here could be very powerful because we're not always thinking of everything. So as a group, they can point out some things maybe you hadn't considered that would be beneficial, or things that may be detrimental to, whatever the decision is. And so taking like what others said and tying it to your original thoughts. And then think about, you still feeling the same way? Did other factors come into play that maybe altered your original thought or perspective? So get them to think about that. And then as a group, looking beyond. So depending on which scenario, dilemma, or case it is, you want them to look beyond what was occurring, beyond what happened, and maybe how to prepare. And then there's also complicated questions, so taking it further with that what if, what if this happened, or what if it was this? And so that's always fun too, especially for journal writing and that piece at the middle and high school level. So here's what this template looks like. So this one has Take a Stand. So you can see there's little boxes. This is really easy to upload into Google Classroom or any LMS where students can just download it, have it right on this particular template. You can print it, but it's nice to just have, because then no matter what you're doing, whatever topic you're studying, whatever hot topic comes up, you can just take this handout out, template out, and walk through it. And it becomes part of your routine, part of an activity, part of your thinking routine throughout the school year when these hot topics occur. And that's page 2. And so wanted you to just think about, if you want to pause the video here at this point, if you're watching it on demand, I want you to think about how these routines can be used with your students or your educators if this is something you would maybe present in a professional development session, if that's something that you're in charge of. But where can these be used? How do you see them being used? Who would use them? You just think about a couple ideas here and jot them down. Could also share this stuff on a Padlet as well. So lots of ideas here. We see this, especially because there's so much role playing that can happen. So some, school districts at the middle school or the high school level have activity period, life skills activity, freshman forums. We also see morning start, soft start classes like that. And we're also looking to hopefully, even go younger than what we're at right now, because we're seeing lots of students are connecting even earlier than middle school. All right. If you really enjoyed some of these dilemmas and what you've seen today, I wanted to just let you know that I pulled a lot of them from our digital citizenship lesson strands. And we have 6 different ones here all across the board, kindergarten through 12th grade. So we have media balance, we have digital footprints and identity, the cyberbullying, digital drama and hate speech, privacy and security, relationships and communicating, and of course, news and media literacy. And so we have lessons that spiral kindergarten through 12th grade, all turnkey, that really play a big role in creating routines and skills for, making sure we have good digital citizens in our future. And I want to make sure you all know that we always be sure to connect the family, because what's happening in our classrooms obviously is powerful and great, but we want to make sure we're bridging that conversation from the classroom to the home. And so I just wanted to point out what we call conversation starters that look like this. And I know this is really tiny to see, but I wanted to give you a visual of what they look like. And essentially, they're like note cards with conversation starters. And it's how to talk to your child about the following. So we have conversation starters on oversharing, questions to ask about oversharing and what your family values and how you want to represent your family, in these online spaces. We have conversation starters about digital habits, right? Media balance and well-being, both at home and in school. We have chatting safe with others online, which is a really big one when we talk about not only social platforms, but we also are talking about gaming. And making sure you know who you're chatting with and what questions you can ask your child to keep that communication open and keeping them safe. The last 2 there are pressures to always be connected, tied to that, there's a time and place for our social media platforms and our gaming, and what does that look like at our house? And then how to respond to digital drama in terms of being an upstander, de-escalating drama when they see it, and how do they play a role in whether it's good or bad, so that they feel good about the decisions, what they're seeing, the decisions they're making and the feelings that they're feeling. Because when we're online, we want to make sure everybody feels good about it and getting a positive outcome. So all these are downloadable. Again, they're little cards. They're electronic. You can put them in your LMSs. You can put them in your newsletter, whether you have a classroom newsletter, a school newsletter, or a district newsletter. These are just, how to talk to your kids about digital media and technology. And I think every parent can appreciate that, because we all want to have these conversations, but sometimes we're just not sure where to get them started and how to get them started. So these are so nice just to be able to talk to around the dinner table, taking a walk, on your way to practice. So easy to kind of implement and keep in your back pocket. All right. I thank you so much for all of your time today. If you would like my slides, and I put every link in the slide for all the resources I talked about and shared, there's a bit.ly up there if you want to grab that. My contact information is also available. We invite you to celebrate Digital Citizenship Week with us with those hashtags. I know lots of folks will be sharing their wins out there in Twitter and social media platforms around what they're doing to keep our kids, always learning around the responsibility and it is to be online.
It's amazing. I appreciate all of those resources so much. I was furiously writing down some ideas that I had exactly for what you talked about, helping students with their persuasive writing and argumentative essays, and really thinking through authentic examples of how their ability to use their language to persuade, for good or for bad, is so much within their control. And I think our students forget just how powerful their words are, both in person and online. So thanks for helping introduce those digital dilemmas. And thank you for celebrating your kickoff to 10 years of DigCit Week with us at Keep Indiana Learning. Jennifer, it has been such a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. This was really fun. And I hope that we can, keep this going all year, not just this week, but this is something that you can do all year with your students.
It's amazing. And citizenship being what it is means that it's always digital in our world. And I can't not mention that Jennifer is our guest on our Keep Indiana Learning Homegrown podcast that will premiere on Thursday, October 20th, 2022, where we talk more about what might come into the future of Digital Citizenship Week. And we are joined by Melissa Bardock, who works with our all online educators and students through Indiana Online. It's a great podcast. I loved our conversation, and I can't wait for everyone to catch that on Thursday. So have a great rest of DigCit week. Go Common Sense, Ed. We appreciate all you do for educators. And thanks everyone for watching. And we hope you have a Digital Citizenship Week for the books. Thanks so much.
Thank you.